Romanticism is one of the most historical events of all time. Unlike a lot of what gets called history, Romanticism isn't a war, or a piece of technology, or a political event. It refers to the birth of a new set of ideas. It's about a mindset of feeling. Romanticism began in Western Europe in the mid 18th century, in the work of artists, poets, and philosophers, and it subsequently spread all over the world, changing how millions of people look at nature, children, love, sex, money, and work. We are all now more or less in some aspect of our sensibilities romantics.
Romanticism of the Romantic movement is a late 18th century movement in the arts and literature that emphasizes inspiration, subjectivity, and the supremacy of the individual.
Romanticism, also the Romantic era or the Romantic period, is an artistic, literary, and intellectual movement that originated in Europe toward the end of the 18th century and was at its peak in the approximate period from 1800 to 1850. Although it is nearly hard to define Romanticism, this does not hinder us from comprehending what it entailed and how it altered the history of art. While Romanticism has little to do with love or romance, it does revolve around passion. Romanticists use art to express their passions and strong beliefs in their feelings to an audience. This deep personal expression can be applied to any subject. In truth, Romanticism affected not just the visual arts but also music and literature. Following the American Revolution in 1776 and the French Revolution in 1789, Romanticism arose.
Romanticism in the mid 18th century categorized a movement in art and literature. It marked by renewed interest in human psychology, personal expression, and fascination with nature. Characteristics of Romanticism would be a deepened appreciation of the beauties of nature, a general exaltation of emotion over reason, and of the senses over intellect, a turning in upon the self and a heightened examination of human personality and its moods and mental potentialities, a preoccupation with the genius, the hero, and the exceptional figure in general, and a focus on his or her passions and inner struggles. A new view of the artist as supremely individual creator, whose creative spirit is more important than strict adherence to formal rules and traditional procedures. An emphasis upon imagination as a gateway to transcendent experience and spiritual truth. An obsessive interest in folk culture, national and ethnic cultural origins, and the medieval era. And lastly, a predilection for the exotic, the remote, the mysterious, the weird, the occult, the monstrous, the diseased, and even the satanic.
There are five major works that represents the Romantic era. First from these artworks is the 3rd of May 1808 by Francisco Goya that was completed on 1814. The artwork depicts the anonymous soldiers who are the executioners that obey orders by killing the suspected people in front of them. In this artwork, the focus of attention is the man wearing a white shirt that expresses horror, mistrust, and pride. Next is The Kiss by Francesco Hayes that was painted on 1859. Hayes' artwork, The Kiss, depicts two lovers embracing while kissing each other while giving each other their goodbyes. It conveys the main aspect of Italian Romanticism. The lady represents the spirit of Italian unification and the hopes that grew during the Italian Risorgimento. Moving on to the next is the La Maja Desnuda that was also painted by Francisco Goya on 1797 to 1800. The nude artwork of Francisco Goya was the first one in Western art to portray a truly real-life nude that wasn't based on mythology's idealized female body. That was the first time a woman's pubic hair had been painted on her body. Maya's intense glance, which he directs upon the viewer, is frightening. The Liberty Leading the People by Eugene Delacroix was created on 1830. The Liberty Leading the People is a large picture in which a lady holds a weapon and raises a flag in the middle. It depicts her stepping barefoot over the defeated bodies while guiding a swarm of people around her. This artwork was developed in response to the political chaos and that would lead to the downfall of the ruling monarch Charles X, whose brother was decapitated. And the last one was The Wanderer Above the Sea Fog by Caspar David Friedrich that was created on the year 1818. A German romantic artist named Caspar David Friedrich painted The Wanderer Above the Sea of Fog, which depicts a man standing on a rocky pinnacle with his backside to its viewers, looking across a scene covered in a deep sea of fog through which other hills, trees, and mountains break. This artwork has long been recognized as a symbol of self-reflection or contemplation of life's path.
Romanticism movement thus involved the artist's sense and emotions that were all equally had the importance of understanding while experiencing the world. It has the individual imagination which leads them to make such creatives that brought the world the beauty of something. Romanticists enlightened with the idea of individualism, idealism, physical and emotional passion and interests. Romanticism in literature. Nowadays, there are a lot of poets and wordsmiths that can describe a specific sense so simple, yet so prettily, and can be visualized when read. Romanticism in art. Experiences and sceneries can be the artist's inspiration in their work, may it be an abstract, modernism, cubism, surrealism, and such, with different medium usage like acrylic, oil, watercolor, or pencil. Romanticism in music. Along with the poets, their written works are usually the reason why there are musicians. With the help of today's songwriters, there are a lot of produced songs that were inspired by Beethoven and Mozart's pieces way back in their years. The expressiveness, tone, melody, and emotions of a song can lead to many feelings and visualizations that the listeners may encounter. Romanticism as a mindset. Romanticism may be best understood not as a movement, but as a mindset. The artists, poets, and musicians of the Romantic period were all united by their determination to use their art to convey emotion or provoke an emotional response from audiences. There was also something pioneering, almost revolutionary, about Romanticism. It involved breaking with the past and consciously moving away from the ideas and traditions of the Enlightenment. In so doing, Romanticism fundamentally changed the prevailing attitudes toward nature, emotion, reason, and even the individual.
The influence of Romanticism's rise and its downfall or demise. The achievements of what Romanticism saw as heroic individualists and artists, whose pioneering examples would elevate society, were lauded. This also established that the individual imagination as a critical authority, allowing artists to break free from traditional concepts of form. In the 19th century, the downfall of Romanticism happened when realism was proposed as the polar opposite of Romanticism. Romanticism was linked to a number of factors, including social and political changes. Note that neoclassicism, responsible for its rise, social realism what brought it down.